started. Welcome to a new episode, and today we are um, interviewing Mr. Vargas. Uh, can you tell us a little bit about your service, sir? Like, your what branch and what kind of service you've done, how many years, etc.
Yes, sir. I was U.S. Army. I joined in 2002, right after September 11th. Um, Went to Iraq in '06 to '08, and then had another combat deployment to Afghanistan. Um, and then yeah, as far as combat deployments, those two are the main ones. I was originally a field artillery guy, and then halfway through in 2010, I reclassed to a combat engineer, and that's where I actually met my buddy Doug Watts. Was there, and when we were reclassing to combat engineers, and I've known him ever since. And yeah, I got out in 2021, and now I am a security officer for the Texas Military Department.
Can you explain to him what reclass is for all the civilians or people out there that may not know what that means?
Yeah, so reclass means when you first come into the military, they assign you or you pick a job. And then anytime during your service, you can decide whether you want to pursue a different career path. And so my career path, I wanted to become a combat engineer. So they send you basically to redo your AIT portion, which is advanced individual training. You redo that. And for us, it was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and they teach you everything that they teach, brand new soldiers from there. And they also expect you, depending on what your rank is, to learn some leadership qualities while you're there. So after that, you graduate, and then you go to a duty station as your new military occupation.
And for the people who are watching the show for the first time, can you give a quick job description of combat engineer?
Yeah, so basically, combat engineers, we are demolition experts. So we do anything from route clearance, where we're driving super slow on the highway looking for explosive device on the side of the road. And we do things also where we are basically blowing down doors, making holes in the walls. If we find an IED on the side, we usually call up EOD, and they allow us to blow it in place. So that's basically what a combat engineer is.
And you said that you joined shortly after September 11th. Was that the motivation for it?
Yeah, I always wanted to serve my country one way or another. Originally, I wanted to become a police officer, but when September 11th happened, it kind of pointed me and some other people to kind of want to join the military, and kind of, at that time we felt like defending our country. So that's why I was a senior in high school when September 11th happened, and I remember going to a recruiter station as soon as I was able to. And he was like, as soon as you graduate, we can get you a date to ship out. And, I told him I would pretty much pick whatever job, was going to get me into combat. And he told me field artillery. And so that's what I decided to do. And I went that way. Um, and like I said, about a couple years later, 8 years later, I decided to reclass to combat engineer. So field artillery was great. It was just not what I wanted to continue doing.
And so your initial goal that you had in mind was just you just wanted to serve your country.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just wanted to serve my country.
And once you got into the service and you really started being engaged, how did your goals change?
Um, well, once I got in, and I loved it. I love the camaraderie. I love the friends that you make in the military. They're your friends for the rest of your life. And um, I've never felt that connection with anybody in the civilian side ever. And this is in high school, middle school. Like, um, I'm from a small town. We had a graduating class of 70, and I to this day I don't speak to any of them. But there's buddies that I came into the military with in 2002 that, I still, message back and forth with on Messenger. Me and Watts here, we've known each other since 2010. I consider him one of my best friends, and now it's 2025, so we've known each other for 15 years. And anytime we get together or you get together with somebody that in the military, it's like you just pick up where you left off. It's not no awkward, trying to get to know each other again. It's just something that you build differently. So that's what I really enjoyed when I first came in. And then, like I said, I was artillery, and I wanted to do something that was going to get me a little bit more into the fight, I guess. So then that's why I went the route of a combat engineer.
And you say you're from a small town. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Big Lake, Texas.
Big Light, Texas. That's a cool
Yes,
name.
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. It's a small little town in West Texas. Closest big city to us is an hour drive east to San Angelo, Texas, or about an hour drive north to Midland, Odessa. So there's nothing out there.
So what was it like growing up in a place like that, and then suddenly being, the military suddenly jettisons you into like the wide world? How was the culture shock on that?
Yeah, it was a big culture shock. Coming from a small town, like everybody, um, you grow up with them. And then when I joined the military, it's like I'm meeting people from Detroit, from New York, from Washington, from other country. Um, and it's an eye opener. And then you start, seeing like how really different everybody is, but yet, you all have one common goal, and it was to serve your country. So you always have that kind of brings you together. So it doesn't matter what part you're from. You're going to end up making friends from all over the world. Like, uh, one of my buddies, he was from Mexico, another one from California, another one from Detroit, another one from New York. So there's all over the world. You just never know who you're gonna end up clicking with.
Does that kind of like I would assume that kind of broadened your perception of just people in general, and kind of makes you a lot more tolerant of people's different stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's some things that I would say, and they would have me repeat them again. Like, what did you say? And it was the same way with them. You know, uh, my one of my first buddies, he was Puerto Rican, and like, us exchanging like Spanish words and stuff like that. It was pretty funny. So yeah, it definitely opens your eyes to a lot different and
Different
other
culture.
other views. Yep, cultures, other views out there, other opinions. Um, yeah,
Pieces.
yeah, other races. Yep.
You got a question, Doug?
Question I have for you is being in combat, right? Can you share a memorable moment from your time in combat? Something that sticks with you. It could be good or bad, or a combination of both.
Yeah. One times was and, it's coming to mind because I was just talking about it. I was looking through some pictures. We were actually going through a small town, and it was in Afghanistan, and we ended up going hitting our vehicle on some low power lines. And I remember the whole vehicle that whole vehicle like shut off. The tires started to burn. I thought my gunner was dead because all we heard was a loud pop. I thought we got hit with something, and then I see him just sunk into the gunner's hatch, and I thought he was gone. um I didn't know we had hit a power line that caused the whole vehicle to malfunction. And so that part because I thought, we were in a firefight, and luckily we didn't step out of the vehicle. Otherwise, there would have been other casualties in there, and only my gunner was the only one that got injured. And that one hit me because I was a squad leader at the time. um and I was like, man, like, I would be the one that would be writing his mom a letter and writing his family a letter, and telling them that, the reason why it happened, and trying to explain to him, like, and it wasn't even combat. It was just us driving, and one of the antennas happened to hit the power line. And it's like, man, how am I going to explain that? Like, I'm the the commander of the vehicle, and I didn't even notice that the vehicle. So like, when you lose somebody and it's like normal combat, that's a little bit easier to explain. It's out of your hands. But when it's something that it's caused by you, um, that one hits you a little bit harder. When it's your fault, that one hits you a little bit harder. Luckily, he was okay. Um, Even now he'll say like, "Remember when you almost killed me?" and now we laughed at it, but at that time we didn't.
You know what's crazy is you saying that made me think of something. I remember, I think I was in Iraq 2006, 2007, and we were actually on a base, right? And I was going to, like we live in like these little trailers. And there's no bathrooms in there, so you have to leave and go to the porta john to use the bathroom. And it was maybe like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was really dark out. Everything. Make a long story short, I'm headed to the bathroom and I hear a noise. I knew it was a cat, but the volume was way much deeper than a normal domestic cat, right? So I look up and it's a freak. It's a damn mountain lion. So I got my weapon, and when we're on base, you're not supposed to lock and load or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I lock and load because the mountain lion's looking at me and I'm looking at it. And my heart's beating fast, and I point at it, I'm talking to him. I'll blow your fucking head off. I'm just talking. I wish you know what I'm saying? So at that moment, it was a first sergeant that walked by. At the time, I think I was a staff sergeant, whatever. And he started yelling at me because I locked and loaded. So the next day, I ended up having to go see my first sergeant and the commander as to why I locked and loaded for no reason. And my fear was, it's one thing, like he said, to get killed in combat. There's no fucking way somebody's gonna send my body home and tell my parents or tell my
That you got
mama
killed
I got
by
killed by a mountain lion, bro. So what I explained to them, whatever punishment I got coming to me for that, so be it. But I'd rather that than, oh, he didn't get killed in combat. He got killed. He got gnawed by a mountain lion. Hell no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nah,
It
man.
is.
Yeah,
Because I
so
mean,
that just brought that back. Like, nah, man, that's not happening.
yeah, it matters on the way you go out. Like, I
Yeah,
remember we used to joke, like, man, like, with my luck, we'll be in the porter john and get hit with the mortar or something like that.
and you got
But
killed
yeah,
by while taking the poop.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what we were saying. Like, it matters how you go out. You want to go out honorably. So yeah, that was one of the times that stuck with me the most, because I was like, man, how am I going to explain it? Like, did I not check the antenna? Even though he was up there, like, how did the antenna pop off of its hook? So I was like, that was one of the
sometimes
times
those
that,
wires are really low too when you're going through those villages and stuff like that.
yeah,
So could easily.
yeah, it
I
could have
got
just been
another question
anything.
for you. I wanted to ask
so
you also, what was one of the most hardest things for you, or something that happened in combat? What was one of the most difficult situations you ever faced?
Um, well, one of them wasn't even combat. I mean, you know which one I'm talking about too. The one in Afghanistan. I don't know if you want me to really talk about that at all. Um,
please.
No, we talking about everything because it's people need to hear this and it helps other people.
okay, yeah. So in Afghanistan, I was me and my wife were going through a rough time. We were going through separation, kind of. We were upset with each other a lot. So when I was deployed, I made the mistake, and I sought comfort in somebody else. And well, this person, we were acquaintances before. Um, her and her husband were in the same company as me. And it started off with I wasn't able to sleep. She was like, oh, I got some sleeping meds. Like, she's like, do you want one? I said, yeah, that's fine. I said, yeah, bring one over. So she brought one over to my tent, and I remember I took it. And then next thing I remember, we were like making out on the bed, and we ended up, you know, we ended up having sex. And then it was like probably a little bit later on, um, she tells me that, she needs to talk to me. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? And she tells me that she's pregnant. And I was like, man, so what does that mean? What are you gonna do? And she's like, well, I'm gonna go back to the States. I was like, okay. I was like, what are you gonna tell your husband? She was like, well, he thinks it's his. So she's like, I'm not gonna say nothing. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but when I get back stateside, I'm gonna have an abortion. And I was like, dang. Said, you had this all planned out, don't you? And she was like, yeah. She's like, that's my plan and this and that. So I was like, okay, she's gonna have an abortion. I said, I don't got nothing to do with her ever again. That's it. Like, it was a mistake. Should have never happened. But she ends up going back, and when she's stateside, I don't know how it happened. I never got the full story because they never told me how it happened. But she got back stateside, and all of a sudden I remember I'm there, and my first sergeant comes to me and he's like, hey, I need to talk to you. CID needs to see you. And I was like, okay. And so I'm like, man, I was like, I wonder if somebody told on
Let me
me that.
interrupt you real quick before you continue. Hold that thought. Just for clarity, uh, first thing, Darren, I wanted the people to know that adultery in the army, if you're married and you commit adultery, they frown upon that really, really bad. You could actually get kicked out of the military for it. They hold us to a different standard. However, we're soldiers and we are held to a higher standard, but we also are flawed. We make mistakes as well. So that was another reason that makes that moment difficult. The other thing he just mentioned, CID. So
Mhm.
CID would be like law enforcement and army, but it's CID is criminal investigation department. So those would be like the
Mm.
guys that investigate when crimes are committed and
Oh
stuff like
wow.
that. So
Okay.
just so
Yeah, yeah,
civilians
yeah, yeah.
know.
I kind of inferred it from what he said,
Mhm.
but okay. So criminal investigation division or department. So that must have kind of put you on edge. So what
Yeah,
happened?
I was like, man, I was like, they I'm thinking in my head, like, man, somebody told on me, like, they're coming to talk to me about adultery.
Were you married
So I
as
was,
well?
yes, yep, I
Oh
was married and
wow. So
she
you were
was
both
married.
married. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, I was like, so in my head, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just tell them the truth. I'm gonna go in there. I'm just gonna say, like, because I know they're gonna ask me, like, did you, have sex with her? And I was gonna say yes. So I sit down, and of course, first thing they ask me is, do you know her? I said yes. What's y'all's relationship? And I kind of hesitated, and I was like, well, because we're friends. I said we're friends. And he was like, okay. And he's like, did you sexually assault this person?
Oh God.
And I was like, what? Wait, no. I said no. And they're like, did you have sex with this person? And I was already like stunned. I was like, nah, you know what? I want a lawyer. So I stopped it right then and there. Well, they put my no down as no, I didn't have sex with her. When I was telling them, like, no, like, they caught me off surprise with this. And so and that'll come up later on, what the reason why I'm saying the no part. So then um right away, I I get treated like I'm guilty. They move me to another place, to another camp, and I moved to this new place, and I'm like away from all my buddies because Watts was in the unit. A whole bunch of my buddies were in that unit, so they moved me away from everybody and isolate me. And so I go to this new camp. I'm there, trying to figure. People are like talking about me, this and that. Some people think I'm guilty. Some people, that really knew me, they know that I'm innocent. Um, So all this is going on. I'm supposed to go on R&R. They waited till I was at the going to the flight line to let me know that they decided they were going to cancel my R&R.
So tell them what
Like,
R&R is.
so
I know what.
R&R.
You
Tell the
know what
Okay.
audience.
it is.
Yep.
I know it. No, but tell the audience.
Yeah. So it's like trying to remember exactly what the R&R stands for, but it's like
Rest and
rest.
relaxation.
Yeah, it's rest and relaxation. So you get like, depending on how long your deployment is. So I've done a 15-month deployment, and you get a longer R&R. This one, I think, what is it, 15 or
That one was a year.
yeah? So this
It was
what was
12 months,
R&R? 12
30
days or
days.
something? Yeah, something like that. And I was gonna meet, my family down, and we were gonna go to Disneyland and stuff like that. Well, they told me on the flight line, like, hey, we're canceling it for you. So now I'm upset because I'm like this is you waited until right now. Like, my family had already flew. We were stationed in Germany. They had already flew back stateside to go meet me there for R&R. Like, they already knew what was going on with this whole mess that was happening. So they canceled it. I didn't get a go on it. Still, I'm staying. Not until we get back to Germany. Did we get back to Germany that I find out, a little bit more about what was going on. I had a lawyer now. Now they're telling me like what she's saying, and I'm like, she's lying. I give them everything. I give them my phone. I'm trying to prove my innocence. I tell them I'll take a lie detector test. I'll do whatever you need me to do because I know the truth. And they were just hesitant on everything. Not until it was about the time where they needed to make a decision whether they were going to prosecute me or let me go, did they say, you know what, we'll let you go, but we need you to do a lie detector test. I said, okay, let's do it. So they had somebody come down from Quantico to administer the lie detector test. I take the lie detector test, and as soon as we're done, he's like, I can go ahead and tell you right now that you were completely honest with me on everything. So congratulations. I'm going to let them know that you were complete, and all charges will be dismissed. It took all that just for her. Other people were telling them like, no, because I got a copy of all the witness testimonies that people were giving, and every single one of them was like, nope, 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 like he didn't do that, like, I remember my buddy, I read I read Watson's statement, and he said, man, you don't know Vargas like that. Vargas,
That's my statement, right?
yeah, he's like, you don't know him like that. He's like, he gets it if he wants it. He don't gotta go and force somebody to give it to him. He's like, and I thought that was funny. I was like, man, that's my boy right there. He knows me better than anybody, and he knows like I'm not gonna go and do that I don't have to do that.
So I just
So
want to tell them about the seriousness of it.
Yeah.
Please explain to them, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, what could have potentially happened to you had you been court-martialed and found guilty of this thing.
They were looking at Leavenworth. I'm talking about years for sexual assault. I think at one point the lawyer had said something like 20 years, 20 to 25 years I was looking at for just that charge for sexual assault. So then just to, I'm assuming, I don't know what, but after I did the lie detector test, I'm thinking I'm good. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to go back. I'm going to re-enlist, and I'm going to go somewhere else away from this place. Well, I get there and they're like, oh, we're still going to get you in trouble for lying to CID. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't lie to him. I didn't even talk to him long enough. They told me the statement. They said, did you sexually assault this person? You said no. The next question was, did you have sex with this person? You said no, but you admitted that you did. I said no. What I said was, no, we're done. I want a lawyer. I said, that's not, I said, but in the statement that they wrote, all it said was, no, I want a lawyer. And they made it seem like I was lying to him when I really wasn't lying to him. I was answering, first of all, the way they threw it at me, they caught me off guard. So I was saying no to the first question of the sexual assault. Then when they asked me the sex thing, I said, nah, we're done. Like, I don't want
yeah,
to answer no more. I want a lawyer. So they used that against me, and they still, they got me a little bit of I got a field grade Article 15 and stuff like that. So, I mean, they still got to punish me like they wanted to.
For the
It
adultery
almost
part.
feels like they were going to do something.
Well, they
Yeah,
had to. They had to because even though the sexual assault thing was released, according to the Army, he still violated UCMJ by committing adultery. So
yeah,
So,
he was going to get punished for that anyway. Now, interesting thing about that, the statement that they got from me, uh, Darren, this is around the time that when you're getting ready to redeploy, meaning you're getting ready to go back home, we had jumped from one base to another. Then I ended up in Bagram. But what's crazy was I thought I was going crazy because everywhere I would go, I would see these two particular guys. When I went to the gym, I would see them at the gym. When I went to the USO to call home to my family, I would see him. I would see him in the dining facility. So after about a week, I said to myself, I'm like, yo, if I see these dudes one more time looking at me, I'm gonna walk up to him and just like, what the fuck is your problem? Right? So I ended up going back to the area that we were assigned, the billets where our unit was, our tents and stuff. And then CID comes to pick me up because I was his friend. I was one of his
oh
closest
wow!
friends.
So you were about to get into something, and they picked you up because of this thing.
Yeah, they had been watching me all along. So when I walk in the office, that's those two guys sitting there. They had been watching me the whole time.
So they're trying to make a character assumptions about you because
Yeah.
you're his reference. Wow, that's interesting.
So that's
So
when they asked me the question because I've known him for a while. You know, when he was married, he was like, he was a chick magnet. Like, they was all,
they were trying to assess what your character might be like before they even questioned you. Wow,
yeah.
interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I understand it because in the context of this, especially in a situation where it's the military, which carries a whole lot of shit, sexual assault is a big fucking deal.
yeah.
So
It's a
I
huge
get
deal.
it. So they're taking it very seriously. So I understand kind of why they're doing what they're doing. But it's almost like, so if one of your, one of your mates gets into something, multiple people come under scrutiny just because
Association sort of kind of.
association.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm gonna ask a personal question. You can leave it alone if you don't want to get into it, Vargas. But so how did this go with your wife, bro?
It didn't go well. It didn't go well. I had to explain it to her, and I mean, she had been in the military also, so she kind of knew. And I think what bugged me the most was like afterwards, I was like, so what are y'all gonna do to her? And they were like, well, nothing. And I was like, why? I said she basically lied. Oh, because she's not in the military no more. So they had allowed her to get out of the military. She got
With this
all her
claim,
with this claim, got all her benefits. Nothing ever happened to her. And I was like, well, why don't you, try to go after her then? Because you can take away somebody's VA benefits if you can prove that they did something, wrong. So they said basically they don't want to discourage other women from coming forward
got
and
it
claiming. And I said, I agree with you, but then don't you want to discourage other women from making false
from lying.
accusations against males? Because I said she basically ruined my life for that short period of time. I didn't have, that deployment was one of the worst deployments ever. And I still deal with that trauma that, the way I was treated and, being called, a rapist and this and that. That's hard to be called when, you didn't do nothing wrong. So it's like, oh yeah, I understand you don't want to discourage women, but you should also want to discourage the women that want, to do something like this again. And I think that's what always sat with me is like you want to protect, and I agree with it, protect the women that come forward and have true accusations of somebody, but you at some point you have to punish the women that come make false accusations, because if it was the other way around, they would have came after me. If I made the false accusations, they wouldn't have cared. They would have came after me. I know that 100%. I don't doubt it a bit. If I had reversed it and I was the one that made the false claim, they would have came after me, because they came after me for lying to CID supposedly, and then for the adultery, which I was kind of like, man, y'all punished me enough. You don't think y'all have already got what y'all wanted? But I mean, I understood that they had to do what they had to do. So, I took it on the chin and just kept moving on. But, the fact that nothing ever happened to that person. And then I remember somebody sending me a screenshot of her doing the Me Too movement. And I was like,
Oh
man,
wow.
the
So
audacity.
she's still
I was
milking it.
like, yeah, I was like, the audacity that this person is going over there doing this. I was like, yeah, I don't want to ever see anything about this person again. Like, I'm
It
sure
would
they sent it to me, but
it would seem to me that based on your side of the story, and I can only go by your side of the story, from moment one, there was kind of a malicious planning in all of it.
yeah,
And so I'm sure when she got home, and again, we're not a court of law, and I can only know your side of the story, but it would seem like, so she had a husband who she had to explain this stuff to. So as far as you know, she did get the abortion.
yeah, she did, and that's how they
It,
ended up connecting me with the adultery, because they ended up, once she did the abortion, they did a DNA test, and that's how they found out that the baby was mine.
oh wow, so it was your child.
Yeah,
And so did she
because
stay married to the guy, as far as you know?
I think they later on separate. I'm not sure. I don't think they're together anymore, but
They're not.
um yeah, I don't think they're together anymore, but
So
I don't think he was able. I think the reason why she came after me is because maybe I was a little flirtatious with her and I showed the interest, and I don't think that guy was able to have kids with her because I think they had been trying. So
uh,
yeah, I don't think her husband
so
was
so let
able
me
to
ask
get
you
her
this,
pregnant.
because this is a good cautionary tale for other people. How long did you know her before this incident?
But we were in the same unit, so when did we get to Germany? I think,
You knew about a year
yeah, about a
because
year.
it was a year train up before we deployed.
Yeah,
And so did she give you any indication that she was capable of this kind of thing?
none at all, none at all. Like, I it when they made the accusation, I first when they said it, I thought in my head her husband made her do it. That's what I thought, was
Interesting.
like he found out and he made her do it, or he found out and she said it to him just so she wouldn't get in trouble. That's the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
thing that
yeah.
I could think of in my
Bigger
head.
lie. A lot of for some people, when something goes off the rails, they move on to a bigger lie.
Yep. Yeah. So
Um,
that's the only thing that I could put
yeah.
together was, that she got caught, and
Mhm.
that they were like, oh, she was like, oh, well, this is what he did to me. Like, I didn't do it because I wanted to. Like, I did it because of that. Because he stuck by her side. And I mean, even after the fact, he stuck by her side. Even after, all the charges were dismissed and I had passed the lie detector test. I don't know, maybe later on if that's what's caused them to split up, but yeah, I know I was on staff duty one day, and him and her came up to so he can sign out of staff duty. And I mean, I remember them leaving
Awkward.
Germany.
Mm.
Yep.
So that's wow. That's a completely different kind of trauma, in addition to all the other traumas that just come with being a combat vet. How did I don't I I'm sure there were things that had already happened before that, but what changes did you see in yourself after this incident? Like what how did you change as a soldier?
um at the time I didn't think that it really took that much of a toll on me, but now that I've gone through classes and learned a little bit about myself, I became an alcoholic. I became an alcoholic. I used alcohol to kind of push these feelings that I had and kind of push these memories that I had. I pushed them away. I started social isolation. I was kind of pushing the people that I knew at that time period, kind of pushing them away. And Doug was one of them. I was pushing them away. I didn't want, if they reminded me of that situation, I didn't want any part of it. And yeah, it definitely led me to use alcohol as a crutch. And I think um, trusting trusting people, I automatically, any woman after that, I automatically assume that eventually they were gonna find a way to screw me over. And I mean, it happened to me again later in life. But I was out of the army when this happened. But it all trickled down to that moment that, she betrayed me. It caused me to have an outlook totally different than my normal outlook before. Um,
Because you had a very big wound. So later on, when something not as serious happened, it felt really big. Is that what
yeah,
you're saying?
yeah,
Gotcha.
basically.
So that happening combined with all the things you experienced in combat, because I mean, and you can share it if you or not share it if you don't want, but you recently had a situation, and I was
Yeah,
wondering, could you share that with us? Like,
yeah. I was best way to describe it is tired. It's not like a physical tired. It's like your soul. Your soul is tired. And
Mm.
I knew that alcohol was something that would help me accomplish, my end goal. And yeah, I was gonna end it. I was gonna end it all.
Oh
But
man, sorry to hear that. Did you just feel what I do understand, not from you guys' perspective, but I do understand that feeling of your whole soul just being fucking tired. Because shit, just being a man in this world, people don't understand. I laugh sometimes when people try to make it. They talk about the patriarchy and all this stuff, and I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to be a man on this planet, man. It's just a lot of weight on you. But you guys have an extra weight. That whole thing of when you're a man, technically, and everybody says, "Oh, it's not true." When you're a man, just for starters, nobody gives a shit what happens. Like you either win it or you lose it, and people don't give a shit. Now combine that with everything that you've gone through. I know you said you were tired. Did you just feel like was there something that could help? Because were you not heard enough? Did you feel like people didn't see you well? What was
I
pushing it?
think I think I never forgave myself for allowing myself to be in that situation. And I think
Mm,
constant, me feeling guilty and guilty and guilty and guilty, and then feeling shame for that. It took a toll. And
yeah,
not until not until that day, not until afterwards. um you know people may not, believe in, God and stuff like that, and stuff, but literally that's what stopped me from doing it. Was Had to be him or somebody, because I'm a gunsmith. So I know, I grabbed my pistol. I knew how much poundage it was going to take for me to pull that trigger, which is not a lot because it's modified. um Close my eyes. Yeah, I was
it's all right, man.
it's all right. Take your time, bro.
Yeah, I closed my eyes and I was gonna say bye, but I hear a knock on the door. It was law enforcement, and all I did was put the gun down, opened the door, turned around, put my hands on my head. He took me outside and was like, "What's wrong?" And I tell him I was just tired.
Well, I'm so happy that you're still here with us today to share this story. And I hope that this sign, that knock on the door, whatever it was, thank God that it happened, and hopefully it tells you that maybe whatever's happening, man, something wants you to be here. Somebody, something out there, whatever you believe in, God, the universe, Yahweh, Buddha, I don't care what you believe in, something called for you to still be here. That not you can't you told the story. That perfect time knock. Take that as there's something more for you to do, even if it's what we're doing right now, you letting other veterans know that you're feeling the same shit a lot of them are feeling. And
Yeah,
that may be the knock. They may see this podcast and that may be the knock that they needed to know that they're not the only one managing this stuff.
yeah,
Because you guys get very isolated after you leave your brotherhood. And you know, this goes back to the manhood thing. And even though it's more complicated than the liberal folks make it, that men should be able to do this and they should be able to talk and they should be able to cry and all this stuff. As men, it sounds good to say all that stuff, but that is not how we are raised, not just by our families, but by society. That you have to always be strong and you have to always be resilient and you have to always figure it out. And it's just something that, our society teaches men. And it's okay for your soul to be tired, but you got to go ahead and call your brothers and share that tired because they know.
yeah.
And again, I'm just happy that you're still here to do this interview with us, my brother.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I was definitely looking for a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So, yep.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not gonna. I've definitely learned a lot from that. Went through counseling, lots of classes, just to figure out, the reason why I felt the way I did. Uh, learn to trying to teach my brain, to work differently, see things differently. Um, yeah. So yeah, that was pretty recent.
Have you have you felt properly supported since this stuff happened?
It's crazy the amount of resources we have out there that we didn't even know about. Um, I'm seeing a therapist, a civilian therapist, and it's supposed to be $100 a week to see her. But there's programs out there that they're paying for all my sessions.
What's
And
the name?
I
What's the name of that program?
um
If you
man,
don't
I'm
have it
gonna have
off the top of your head,
yeah,
you can send it to me later, and I'll put it in
yeah,
the credits.
yeah, I'll definitely send it to you. Yeah, because I didn't even know about it. Not until I showed up, because I was like, man, $100 a week, that's nothing, to help me get my life together. And when I got there, she was like, "Oh, she's like, you actually qualified for this program." She's like, "They're gonna cover all your sessions." And
That's great.
yeah, So there's a lot of resources. I think a lot of people are afraid to reach out to law enforcement, but they're there to help us. So
Yeah, and a lot of law enforcement are veterans.
yep.
Yeah.
And what are you doing other than that? Are you, I don't know, what kind of routines have you picked up? Are you working out? Are you
Yeah,
hobbies?
I've lost over 30 pounds, since this incident. I started to go to the gym every day at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm in the gym and going back at it, coming back, getting my kids ready for school. I'm making dinner, doing lunches, cleaning the house, doing laundry, pulling my own weight because, there was a time I was so depressed that I didn't even want to do that. Uh, you know, t- I decided, you know what, I'm gonna apply for a better job, applied for a better job. I got the better job, but, I actually start this better job May 1st. So, you know,
Congrats.
th- yeah, this whole incident has changed my life around. I value my life way more than I did before. And I don't let what happened in the past determine my future.
And
So
you got kids, man. They need
yeah,
you.
no, definitely, definitely.
You got
And
children, and you got your wife, and you got your brothers. Sometimes you got to consider. Ironically, you got to consider the weight. You've lost people in the field, right?
yeah,
Okay, so we just had another vet talking about it's almost the same pain. So you want Doug to get that call?
nah, I didn't.
Okay.
And that's one of the things is we feel like it's our life that we get take it if we want it, but it's not you know it's shared to everybody that you became friends with, that you love.
And and honestly, I did get that call.
Yep.
Like I didn't know what was going on. I got a call from his older daughter. His daughters call me uncle. So she reached out to me. So for about a week straight, I'm going crazy because I don't know what's going on. Now, mind you, since I've been retired, at least four of my comrades have committed suicide. So this one hit even closer to home because and then I'm feeling like, man, what did I miss? Why wasn't he talking to me? I shot him a few texts like, man, like are we not friends anymore? It's like you don't reach out to me anymore. Like what? I knew something was going on, but this is the one time normally he shares, but he didn't share anything with me. So it's been a couple of months and then this thing happened. So I was just like, and I just told him, I was like, come on, man. Like you have any idea like what that would have done to me? You know what I'm saying?
and, and,
Yeah,
and
you
you know
guys,
like
you guys are still brothers, and in your own way, you're still soldiers. So yeah,
yeah and
it's
like
like you leaving Doug on the battlefield by yourself, my man.
no,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. And like as much as I want to say, like, so one of the reasons that I felt like I had got so low was, so I was on medication, right? I was on a certain medication for my antidepressant. I was on it. This antidepressant was causing, some issues with me. So my doctor was like, okay, well, I want you to stop taking them. And when she said that, it scared the shit out of me. I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you want me to stop taking them? If I stop taking them, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get super depressed. I said, so what am I going to do? She's like, well, I need to determine whether this is medication or not. So the only way to do that is you have to stop. And it's like these doctors, yeah, they're there to help us and stuff like that, but sometimes they really don't think about the consequences of their decisions that they make. Like having me stop cold turkey on that medication, just like, yeah, go ahead and stop, because it was later on that week that this all happened. It was like almost 2 weeks afterwards that all this happened. My brain wasn't dealing with everything that was going on anymore, and so I had got so depressed that that's the way out that I took. And now I'm back on medication, and I know I shouldn't be so reliant on it. That's why, like I said, I'm going to classes, trying to train my brain to think differently and not have to rely on medication, because I don't want to be on medication the rest of my life. I want to be able to, be able to hold my own. But yeah, that was definitely one of them. One of the things was, and that wasn't the first time. The first time that it happened was I went to a new primary care provider, and they were like, "Well, you're on this medication, but let's try this other medication because this has less side effects." I was like, "I'm already on this one, so how am I supposed to do it?" And they're like, "Well, here you can start taking this other one. I'll prescribe it to you." This other one didn't do anything. I got super depressed. Uh, Started to have suicide thoughts again, and then luckily, uh I talked to her and she put me right back on them. So I got back on them again. And then when I came a couple years later, now I'm back over here, and the primary care provider, decided that they wanted to take me off the medication because of what it was doing to me physically. But there was no plan on what should I do, when I start having these thoughts. Because I told her, I said, they're gonna come, because every time I've been off this medication, that's the first thing. So now I'm on a totally different medication that's not has nothing to do with that at all. So um, I'm enjoying this new medication. Feels like it's more right for me, and it took me seeing a therapist almost every day before, and this therapist to be like, all right, I think I know you well enough. I want to put you on this, and I'm gonna start you off at this low dosage until they got me to where I'm at now. That's the kind of care that the vet should be receiving, is a therapist to make sure that they know you before they just throw you on some type of medication and be like, here you go, you're depressed, let's get you on this. And it's like, you don't even know the person. Maybe they're not depressed, maybe they have something else going on that instead another medication would work. But because you just automatically assume PTSD, depressed, up, put them on this medication, that's the right way to do it, when it's not. So it took this happening for me to see a therapist, and for this therapist to do their job and be like, you know what, I've evaluated you, I've done enough research, I think this is what's wrong, and this medication is going to be the best for you. And so far, it has been the best for me. It's been definitely, it's been a life changer. But like I said, I need to rely more on my faith and on myself. So
I,
I'm
I
happy
wanted to
that
add one quick thing to that,
yeah.
because you hear a lot of horror stories about the VA. My experience with the VA is I've gotten I'm still going through counseling, and I'm constantly getting it and everything. So that, and the therapist that I'm working with, along with my medication, is actually working for me. So like you said, one of the problems is a lot of guys don't know that they have all of these uh resources with the VA, and then there's sources connected to the VA that you can outsource certain things if that may not be working for you. So it either that soldier or that ex-service member has to actually be adamant about it, or they need to have somebody. They have a program for that like your spouse could be your caregiver. And if you're not able to do that, then your spouse, they got programs where they actually get paid, but they can actually help you make sure that you getting on the meds, make sure you getting to the appointments and stuff. Because for me, when I first came on, I couldn't even drive. My wife was taking me to all of my appointments. My wife was going with me to make. That's just how bad it was that I didn't want to leave the house. So
I I remember when you first got home, you went through a few things like that.
yes,
Um, yeah, it one of the from the outside looking in, as the civilian viewpoint, the things I'm hearing is that you got to be really communicative with your healthcare people.
yes,
And for you healthcare people who are watching this, you can't just put all these guys in a box. You gotta work with them and understand what their individual traumas and issues are, so that you can find the right prescription literally and figuratively for the situation. And I know some of the vets feel dissatisfied with the VA, and some of them don't feel that way. So for the guys that feel dissatisfied with the VA, you guys seem to have a better feeling about it. It's not completely, but a better feeling about it. What do you advise those guys to do to make their experience at the VA work better for them?
One thing I would say is what happens is a lot of times people reach out for help, right? And they get it, then in a month, okay, I'm good. It took me
Mm,
at least a year of counseling where I was even comfortable with going outside. Like the kind of counseling I had, I think they call it in vitro or whatever. And we had exercises where they would actually have my wife in the car with me and practice driving to the mall. I didn't like being around large crowds of people. So, okay, go in the morning time where it's not that many people. And we gradually worked on things. Or I would go to the movies, but we went at the very first showing where it's not a lot of people in there. And I would always sit in the back where I could see all doors, all exits, and everything. So we started doing things like that. So the point I'm making is you have to also follow through. And I know sometimes it gets hard and it gets rough, but if you don't complete complete it or continuing, it's not a quick fix. So a lot of times guys do that or they'll just stop taking their meds. Sometimes
got
the
it.
people don't even sip, they just stop taking them because they don't want to. Even me, I was struggling with that feeling like, man, I need to take these meds so I can go to sleep, so I don't have a nightmare. But then I got to take these other meds so that being around, I can manage my anxiety a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I had a person the other day was running up, and I was in the grocery store early in the morning, but I was grabbing a bottle of water. I always go when there's not a lot of people, but I hear this fast movement. I turned around. Before I knew it, I grabbed one of those bottles of water and I turned around and I cocked it back. And he was like, oh, oh. And I'm just like, God damn it. You know what I mean? Like, you're running up behind me. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
it's constant work. So you can't just get to a point where you're like, oh, well, I don't need it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you just got to stay engaged as best you can.
And Vargas, you mentioned uh, some routine changes. How important has the reorganizing of your routine been for you?
It's been it literally has been one of the most important things for me. Waking up to go to the gym and starting my day off with that, because in the military, that's first thing you do every morning is your PT, and that's what I had got used to. So then when I stopped doing that, you start feeling depressed because you see your body changing not the way that you want it to change. And so now, that I'm, going to the gym every morning, I'm seeing that my body change, my self-confidence is coming back higher. And then that routine is like, it's not no more like I have to do it. It's like I want to do it. And like helping around at the house, the more that I get done here at the house, the happier, she is when she gets home. When I cook a meal, you know, I enjoy cooking, and it helps her out. So, the happier, how they say, happy wife, happy life. Like technically that's exactly how it is, because she's your partner, you want them to be happy, because when they're happy, they make you happy. And so if when I was depressed, I was always just worried about myself, being selfish and not thinking about, what, let me do things to better myself, to help it, so her life makes it easier for her too. And the kids, spending more time with my kids. I'm my son's flag football coach. um like things like that, like I want to be a part of their life a lot more. I have older daughters, and I didn't get to do that. I was in the military. I was always gone. I was always deployed, or in the field, or just in a school. I was always gone, so I never got to do that with them, and I regret it. And they know. They know. I've told them that I regret everything, and the father I am now is what I want to be for them now. I can't change what I did before. I'm sorry that the way things were before, but the me now is what you get. And like when you give me grandkids, you're gonna see exactly like what I wish I could have did with for you, but I was young and I was not around all the time. So um yeah, definitely the routine and just changing my perspective on life. That was probably one of the most important things.
And there's also a little bit of science to it. So by you getting up at 4:30 and doing that workout, you can do the research because I don't want to sound like an expert on anything, but it flushes your body with certain chemicals by just you doing that workout every day. Good energy chemicals for your mood and everything else because you're doing that workout now.
Yep.
It releases endorphins and all these other things that are just great for your mood and everything else. So keep that workout going.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely going.
Yeah,
Um, what else you got, Doug?
man. One thing I want to ask him now is even with everything, uh, your mental health and even with your older children, how are you? What are some of the things you're doing now, even to try to try to reconnect with them, even now that you have time a little bit, and I know there may be a distance and stuff like that, but what are you doing to try to mend those relationships?
Yeah, even the smallest thing from a phone call. Phone call. If I'm driving, instead of listening to music, this and that, I'll call one of them up to see what they're doing, or send them a text message like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Or and I don't want to make it seem like money, but like sending them money, just like, "Hey, here's some lunch money." Like, just not to give them money, but to let them know, like, you know what, I was thinking about you, and I want you to eat something a
Do
little
something
bit
nice
more
for
for
yourself.
lunch. Yeah, something nice. So, little things like that. That's still my relationship with my daughters is still definitely a work in progress, and I'm definitely trying to be there more and trying to be more understanding and not trying to force them to jump straight into a relationship back with me, but to let them know that if they need me for anything, like I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. So that's one of the things that I want them to know.
So I want to kind of wrap up on this. You know, what are the main things that you want the civilian world to know about your life now that you are back here in civilian life as a veteran? What do you want the normies to know about you as a veteran?
um Man, that's a that you know if a veteran, this and that, if a veteran out there, just because he's smiling on the outside, that doesn't mean anything. He's probably hurting. So be courteous, just, hey, how are you doing? If you're friends with one now and you know that he's been through some things, because he may not reach out to you because he doesn't think you understand, but if you make an attempt to try to understand, like they might open up to you. Just because you didn't go to combat and you didn't serve next to them doesn't mean that you can't relate to them some way or another. Just like how you're here, you're a civilian, but yet you're doing something to help veterans out. You can relate to everybody somehow, some way. So just because you know him and you're like, oh, he's a vet, this and that, like, go up to him and ask him, like, how are you doing? Is everything okay? I know, like, it wasn't easy for you in the military. I'm here to talk if you need anything. So don't just assume that that you can't relate to them, or that it's going to be weird if you go up to them and ask how they're doing and how they're dealing with things. Because I've had a lot of civilians come up to me and they've never been in the military, and now they're like, hey, how are you, how are you doing, how are you holding up, we're praying for you, this and that. And I can relate to them now. I open up to them, I tell them what's going on for real. I don't lie to them. I'm not like, oh, I'm good, I'm good. I'm like, you know what, I was struggling and I appreciate you, being there for me when I needed you. So that's one of the things that, if anybody that's never been in the military is going to hear, is just go up to them, ask them how they're doing and try to find out about them.
That is great, great advice. And I reiterate, I am happy I got to meet you. And we're gonna probably need you back on the show at some point. As we're just starting off, but we want to get into some more specific subjects as we go on. But definitely want to have you back at some point. So thank you for your service, and thank you for doing this podcast with us, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service, and I appreciate everything you're doing.
No, thank you. I ain't doing nothing. I'm just trying to give you all a voice. But all right, man. I'm gonna end it here.
Thank you for joining us on Vet Talk Podcast. If today's story moved you, please subscribe and consider donating at vettalkpodcast.com. Every story is a service. Every voice is a legacy. To all our veterans, keep up the good fight and know that you are not alone. Until next time.